Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Dr. Lissa.
Can we move that over here? Oh, does this amplify? Oh, it does amplify. Okay, never mind. It's great. Hi, everybody. It's my honor to be here. Can you hear me okay?
We can't see you if you're moving. Can you be on the stage?
Can I be on? No, I don't think so. I think that would be a lot to move everything up there. I don't know what to say about making me taller. That's never worked. So, if somebody can move up front, that's what they're saying. Okay, so let me give you a little overview of what I'm going to be talking about today and what I'm going to be sharing with you. I will begin with giving you a little overlay between Enneagram and Jungian work. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I'd like to talk about how the Enneagram is a tool for spiritual development. The school that I began in Asheville is called the Enneagram School of Awakening, because that's what the Enneagram is all about. It's about awakening your consciousness. So I want to do that, and then I'm going to do a demonstration and talk you through it so that you can begin to feel the energies of all the 9 types in your bodies. So those are kind of the 3 things that I want to talk about. So let's start with Enneagram and Jungian work. To me, my work with the Enneagram, especially in spiritual development, has been a lot of shadow work. The Enneagram itself seems to be finding what your type is, seems to be kind of peeling away layers so you can even discover what it is. People do a lot of the online tests that I believe don't work because I've seen them not work. And people have a really hard time figuring out what the type is, because a lot of what it is in shadow. A lot of what your type is, you would read about it and think that, well, that's not me. But your friends might say, yeah, it could be you. So, our friends kind of tell us what's in shadow often. So it's a lot of shadow work, and I believe that each type is an archetype. The essential nature, the divine quality of each type is an archetype in itself. And the fixated qualities, you know how many of the books and many of the people that teach the Enneagram have a list of descriptors, like the reformer, the helper, and those are archetypes. So I think that those are the 2 general ways, and of course we could probably talk for days about what shadow work is like with the Enneagram and what archetypal work is like with the Enneagram, but that's not what we're going to do today. I just wanted to say that there is a clear overlapping between those 2 types. Now I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the process of awakening and how the Enneagram fits in with that. So when we're first born, when a baby is first born and comes into being, it is still directly connected with Source, whatever you want to call that. I like to call it Source because that's kind of a neutral way of describing where we come from. And so the baby is still connected, and when they're connected to Source, they have the energy of their essential nature. And it's not fixated yet. It's open, it's free, and each essential quality, when it contracts from conditioning and becomes fixated, is going to become fixated in a particular way. So if you have the essential nature of the reformer, which is, and it's called many different things. So that would be like type 1. When it contracts, it contracts into a person who is trying to be perfect. But when it is open and free, it's pure. It's connected to an essential nature that is purity itself. So, and each one, so purity itself, a pure being, that's an archetype. As it contracts, it might become a reformer and try to become perfect. That's just one example. I'll be giving you lots of different examples. So, when we are born with the essential nature, it's open and free, but we're not conscious yet. We don't even know we're alive. We don't even know we've been born. But there we are, eyes open, bright, not knowing anything, no concept, no name, no nothing. And then life happens, and conditioning happens, and the fixation begins to form. And personality comes in, and ego structure comes in. So, still, you know, you're a young child, 3, 4, 5, like my grandkids. You know, my 5-year-old grandson is beginning to have a sense of himself. It's beginning, and what that means for us all is that we begin to separate from source and become a unique person, an individualized person. As this person, as we develop and evolve, somewhere in, we'll skip a few developmental stages here, because probably in your 20s, you begin to be aware that maybe you're suffering. Maybe you have separated enough so that there are patterns in your life that are causing you some emotional pain. But you're so enmeshed in it, you're so in the trance of it, there's no separation, you can't see it. You just feel emotional reactions and responses, but you can't look at it from the outside. As you get a little older, maybe you find the Enneagram, you find a good therapist, you find a good teacher, you begin to look at yourself. And now you can begin to look at the patterns as they're arising in you. It's like, oh, I have, not that I am, but I have this pattern, and now it's arising in me. This is where the Enneagram starts coming in really handy. Because if we can identify what the Enneatype is and find the energy of it as it shows up in us when we're having a reaction to something, or a good or a bad one, it doesn't really matter. Then we can look at it and see it and begin to work with it. We're no longer it, we're observing it or seeing it. Then we can begin to peel away layers of it. Each pattern has many layers and different qualities and aspects, and we can begin to peel away layers of it until the essential nature starts shining through again. Because it's always been there. It just got covered over, and as we do the work on it, we begin to peel away, and it begins to shine through a little bit. And one of the first things that happens when that does is you begin to have peak experiences. You begin to have moments of what we might call awakening. And they come at different times. You know, it might be you're off hiking and you get to the mountaintop and you peer out and, oh my God, all of you just falls away. And all there is, wow. Just the direct experience of seeing the mountain range and the sky and the clouds and there's that, it's a high, it's a peak experience because the essence shines through. Then it closes back over and you go down the mountain and you're worried about what's going to happen the next day and the pattern comes back in but you're noticing, the pattern came back in. So some of those first times of awakening are because you've peeled away enough of the ego pattern for the essential nature to shine through. Now, if you peel away even more, then the essential nature begins to stabilize. And you begin to see the world more through that than the fixated qualities, even though they still show up, most likely, but you're not identified with them at all. Your identity begins to shift from contracted, fixated person to expanded, essential nature. And that's when we feel connected to everything and reconnected with the source itself. There's another shift that happens, and then, endless. There's no end to the awakening process. It's not like, and then you get there and you're all done. I haven't met anybody like that, including all the spiritual teachers that I've met. They're not done. And the good ones will tell you they're not done, I think. My opinion. Okay, so, but one of the shifts that happens after we're no longer identifying as being the separate self, which is the fixated self, there's a seeing from the place of expanded awareness. Seeing from there to what is individuated. Seeing from the boundless to what is not bounded. So there's a shift like that. And we can actually say that the awakening process is a process of shifting where you see the world from. So first you don't even see the world separately. We're just in it and we're just, consumed by it. Then we begin to see there's a pattern. Then we begin to see the pattern is arising in us. Then we begin to see the pattern from something bigger than the pattern itself. Then we begin to experience the boundless. And then we begin to experience from the boundless. That's another shift. And it goes on and on from there. So, the Enneagram is enormously useful because if you want to begin to find what you're identified with that is limiting your experience, the Enneagram will really show you that. It'll begin to show you what you believe is true that may not be true, what you believe about yourself that may not be true, what you believe about the world that may not be true, but that you identify with. The Enneagram is very useful for that. So that's my little spiel about awakening and the Enneagram. So now, first I'm going to talk really generally about the energies of the types. And then I'm going to begin to embody them and show you what they're like. So there are 4 categories that I have. Actually, let me tell you first about how the embodiment tradition came about, and then I'll talk to you about the energies. So when I was a young psychotherapist, and I was trying to understand what somebody's personality was like, what they were, what their story felt like to them. I had a natural way of being compassionate and having empathy, but sometimes I'd be sitting across from someone and I just didn't get it. I just couldn't figure out, I couldn't feel or understand where they were coming from. So when they would leave the office, I would kind of take them on. I would walk around the room and try to walk like they walked, hold my body like they held their body, talk like they talked if it was different than mine. And as I did that, I had a sense of what the person was like by trying to almost become them. So then later on, when I was learning the Enneagram, and I was trying to help people find their type, I was trying to figure out how can we see what's different? When we read the books, we can identify with most of them. There's usually 2 or 3 that we'll say, that's not me at all. I don't, I can't even relate to that. But there might be 3 or 4 types that certainly 2, but there could be 3 or 4 types that we wonder, I do that, I feel that emotion, I act like that sometimes, I know I do that, and maybe I'm that type. But then there's this other type, and I do those things, and maybe I'm that type. So there had to be a way to begin to discern what's different. How can we tell? So I thought, well, okay, I'll put the energy on. Here's some people that, if I really clearly knew that this person had a particular type, we identified it, they identified it, then I would study them. It's like, okay, I can see what that energy is like. I can feel it in my body. I can move like them. I can talk like them. And I began to tell the difference in an energetic expression. So then when I began teaching the Enneagram, I began teaching by trying to show people what each type was like. And, I started teaching the Enneagram probably 20 years ago. So every time I teach and there's people that I'm teaching, I learn more about their energetic expressions. But that's how it came about, because I was trying to figure out how are we going to be able to identify somebody's type. So here are the differences. There are 3 types whose energy moves towards you. There are 3 types whose energy moves in. There are 3 types that are adapting, shape-shifting. So the 3 types that are shape-shifting are the center triangle, 3, 6, and 9. In the Enneagram books, you'll hear them described as avoiding the emotion that is their primary emotion. And they are doing that, but they're doing that, the energetic way they're doing that is by adapting. And as I go from one type to another, I'm going to give you this overview and then I'll give you details. So just to hear that they are the ones that are adapting for 3 different reasons, adapting in 3 different ways. The types of energies that move in are 1, 4, and 5. They're more internal. The energies that move towards you are 2, 7, and 8. Then there are subtypes. So there's an energy to each subtype. And the subtypes are enormously important. And there's a stacking, so there's a primary subtype, a secondary subtype, and one we don't have very much of, which is really important too, the one we don't have very much of, to bring them all into, because really they're animal instincts and we have them all and they should be in balance. But the one that is our primary subtype is the subtype that got fixated in childhood. It's a wound. It's not, oh, I'm social, so I just like to go to parties and socialize. No, it's an issue for you. So the three subtypes are self-preservation, which is me. I want to preserve me. Intimate, me and you. Social, us. So this self-preservation, as you might imagine, the self-preservation subtype has a more contained, almost grounded energy. Now, they're not all body types which have grounded energies, but if you add self-preservation to an intellect point or a heart point, it's going to ground more. And it's going to have, it is concerned with me, my safety, my security, my comfort. Okay, we're in this room. I probably should have brought another sweater. It's kind of cold in here. Where are the doors? How do you get out? How, I need to take care of myself. There's plenty of food, so I'm not going to get hungry. So a self-preservation type is concerned about, it's going to be 2 hours and I get hungry, so I want to make sure that I either brought a snack or there's food here. So it's like I'm going to take care of myself. And early in childhood, they looked around at their family and thought, I don't think they know how to take care of me. And it kicks in pretty young. Like, they don't have it. So it's up to me. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take care of me. And from that moment on, their preservation is their job. And they're usually very good with environment too. They're really concerned about the environment around them and the environment that we're all living in. Me and you, that's what that will be called, that's referred to in the Enneagram books as the sexual subtype or the intimate subtype. And so I like to call it intimate because I think it's so much more than a sexual subtype. But in the animal kingdom, and just going back to self-pres for a minute, in the animal kingdom, self-preservation is really important. If a lion is attacking your pack, there's this self-preservation instinct is going to kick in, and I have to protect myself, take care of myself. So the intimate is we're going to, who am I attracted to? What's the juicy connection that I can have? So it's really about intimacy, deep, intimate connection. And of course, in the animal kingdom, having an attraction, having a plumage and a flare, you're going to attract some other lovely bird to you, and you'll live happily ever after if you're that kind of bird. So the intimate type wants that deep intimacy. And usually in childhood, what happened with the intimate type is that they did have a really close relationship with one person. Now that may sound, what could be the wound about that? That sounds wonderful. It is, but that person is not always there. The person comes and goes. They're really close, now they're not really close. Now they are close again, now they're not really close. Now there's another sibling. Oh no, I was really your primary child. Now there's another child. Now what happened to my intimate connection? So it's that intimate connection, and it's a need for it. So in the adult life, the person with the intimate subtype needs a deep connection. And if they don't have it, they begin to feel lost. So it usually plays out that they want a mate, but besides wanting a mate, they really want a very best friend, someone they will tell anything to. So it's that intimate connection. And what would be the energetic of an intimate type? It's like making a connection with one person at a time. So the eyes meet, and they lock in, and they're really, they usually have very intense eyes that focus in. And so, you might be with a group of people, a little circle of people, and the intimate type is making a connection with one person, and then another person. And so you can tell, because it's that laser beam, intense, juicy connection that they're making. The social has a different kind of energy. The social has a more expansive energy. It's us. It's us. It's like, oh, here's a room full of people. There's a we energy going on in here. And so to have that social subtype, you have a bigger presence. You're taking in the whole room, and you're noticing the energy in the room. And you're sensitive to the energy in the room, and you're sensitive to working with the energy in the room so that people begin to feel connected with each other, and you feel connected to them. So the social subtype has a presence. They all have a presence, all the socials. It's a little bit of a bigger quality energy. So those are the subtypes. And they flavor each other. So if you have primary intimate with a secondary social, that's going to be a pretty big energy. That's really direct and connected and yet big. If you had secondary self-pres, you might have a really connected energy, but it's contained. So they flavor each other. It's like a toning. One tones the other. One might make one bigger or make one a little smaller. So that's the layering of the subtypes. So let's go through each triad, meaning 8, 9, and 1, which are body types, 2, 3, and 4, which are heart types, 5, 6, and 7, which are intellect or head types. Gut types are 8, 9, and 1. Heart types are 2, 3, and 4. Intellect types are 5, 6, and 7. So 9 is at the top of the Enneagram. And on either side of 9 is 1 and 8. If you might have a diagram near you. If not, I apologize for not bringing a diagram with me. But 8, 9, and 1 is at the top of the Enneagram. 9 sits in the middle of that triad. 1 is on one side and 8 is on the other. So 9 is the adapter. 1 goes in and 8 goes out. And the three of them are managing power, control, and anger. They're managing it. That's what they're about. So the 8 is adapting by not feeling any anger at all, by letting it drain out of their body before they even know about it. 9 is adapting by not connecting to the anger. 1 internalizes. They know that they're feeling anger, but they're managing and controlling it. They want to be perfect, and they don't believe that anger is a perfect emotion, that it may not be useful. So they're trying to contain it. And 8 puts it out there, expresses it fully, completely. That's the outward moving energy. So I'm going to begin to now talk you all into feeling the energy of each type. Are you ready? Okay. So we're going to do 9 first, and I'm going to do it standing, so I'm going to have to explain it to you while you're sitting. Get really, really comfortable. There you go. I see Deb is really doing the 9 already. So get really comfortable. It's as if there's an energy source that all the other types are plugged into. Let's say if there was a cord at the base of my spine plugged into an energy source. And, it sort of like animates me. Well, if I'm a 9, it's unplugged. And you kind of deflate. And you let your eyes become really soft-focused. And now I'm going to let my voice become soft-focused. And I'll tell you a story about how I was on my way here, and I knew that I was going to have to give a presentation, and so I was driving here from Asheville, and I began to listen to something on the radio, and it reminded me of a time when I was a child, and certain things were going on, and then I thought about the lake house where we used to go, and I'm sort of daydreaming, and I don't know, 100 miles goes, and I don't even know what happened, but it was very pleasant, and I just sort of floated here in the car, And now here we are. And so it's that there's a soft fuzziness, there's a foggy fuzziness. It's as if the body is diffused. The energy is soft focus out here, not in here. And anything that is intense, too intense, or just intense, they're going to avoid. But they avoid it by becoming soft. And, and so if anger shows up, well, that doesn't really matter. And if you get angry, they just get vaguer. So that's why I call that adapting. That's how they are adapting. They're adapting to feel comfortable, and in order to harmonize everything. They want harmony always, everywhere. And so they're adapting by becoming vague to harmonize. But that's the fixation. The essential nature of 9 is being itself. But because they got disconnected from source, they're imitating it. It's an imitation of being itself. That makes sense? Some people are nodding, so good. So we'll go internal and then we'll go external. So now we're still managing anger. We're still in the gut, body. So, when we were doing 9, if you were sinking into your seat, gut sinking in, Now we're doing 1. So you feel angry, but you don't want to feel angry. You don't really like the word anger. You use words like frustrated, annoyed, irritated. Okay, so now here's how you're going to get into the 1. You're going to sit up straight. You're going to tighten your core. Tighten your core and feel as if there's a coil. And I can feel it as I do this. This is like a corset tightening. You're like a coil of tight energy right from the base, the bottom of your core to about above your solar plexus, the middle of your chest. And it's tight. And that tightness makes you sit up straight, and it tips your chin down a little. If you really do it, it just automatically does that. And it sort of makes you look like you're looking down your nose at people. But really, it's coming from there's so much tightness, and the tightness is because you're trying to be so perfect. You're trying to monitor the words that you're speaking. You're monitoring, making sure that your behavior is appropriate and proper. And in order to do that, you have to really be checking in. Now, I often say that 1s teeter internally and externally. They're right, the way my posture is, I am internal, but I'm also looking outside too. I might be noticing what's not right in here. So I might be doing a little analysis of how this could be done in a better way. And I probably will give people feedback on, how it could have been done and what you might have forgotten, because I just want to be helpful. And you all need my help. You will want that, so I'll share that with you. So there's a sense of rightness, and then that's one of the lovely qualities of 1, is a sense of rightness. They really know, they feel in their gut when something resonates as true, right. So their essential nature is purity. But the purity that is their essential nature includes everything. Like the whole manifest world is pure. In itself, it's pure. So when they begin to try to imitate that by becoming perfect and making all the details right, that's a distortion. That's an imitation of their essential nature, which already lives as a pure being and sees the world as pure with all its flaws. So that's one. Now, 8. 8 is always interesting when I do 8 for me because 8 is the outward moving anger point. And usually people, not always, but usually people that have the 8 energy have bigger bodies and bigger muscles than I have. But I'm going to do it by just making my energy big. Because, so this energy, if you're going to try to do it, you can sit back in your chair, but if you're going to sit back, you got to take up space. Like, you got to spread your arms out. Or you can sit forward and, lean out and, on your knees, that's it. You got it, so it's like, it's a big energy. It's a real, you got it. It's a big energy. So, and it's managing power, anger, and control. And I say it's managing, but it's expressing it. It's expressing it. Like, why hold it in? Let it out there. People that don't do it are wimps. Like, I don't even know what's wrong with them. They should all be expressing their anger and being big. Come on, let's get it out there. So it's like and when somebody with this energy walks in a room, you know it, you feel it. It's like, it's alive. There's such an aliveness to them. It's big. And so the essential nature is power, but it's Shakti. It's the power in the universe of creation and destruction. That's huge. It's big, and it's not good or bad. It's, the manifest world wouldn't be here without that. So it's a wonderful energy, the essential nature. Now, when it begins to contract, and they become powerful individuals controlling people, that's an imitation and it's a distortion of the essential nature of 8. Okay, so those are all gut points. So far, we're okay? Okay, so we're going to move to another triad. We'll move to the heart points. Two, 3, and 4. So the heart points are getting information about the world through their heart center, with their emotions. It doesn't necessarily mean that 2, 3, and 4 people are also really heartful and loving. What it means is, though, that they are getting information about the world through their emotional responses to things. So they are managing shame, sadness, and image. Sadness and image. Shame and sadness are the primary emotions. They're all image points. So 2, 3, and 4 are all very concerned about how other people see them. We're all born with a pattern. I think I was definitely implying that at the beginning. We're born with essential nature. It contracts in a certain way into the fixation. So when I tell stories about the childhood, what I'm not doing is saying that the childhood created the pattern, but that we look through the lens of the type at what we're seeing in our childhood. And we see it through that lens. That gives us a perception. So 2, 3, and 4 all felt like they weren't seen, not for who they were, that they weren't seen and they weren't loved. And what happens when children perceive that they're not loved is that they feel unlovable. There isn't the capacity for a child to say, my parents are all screwed up. That's why they don't love me. They feel if the parents don't have the ability to love them, children feel it's because it's their fault. They're not lovable. So 2, 3, and 4 all feel unlovable and are all trying to get loved from outside of themselves because they got disconnected from source. When they were connected, all of them were connected to love. All of them were. But as they separate and contract, they contract into their 3 different flavors of unlovable. And then they're trying to get love from the outside, and that requires a certain image, they think. Well, they don't really think about it. It's kind of an automatic thing. So if they can have a certain image that people like, they may get loved. So now we'll look at the 3 different types. There's 3 that sits right in the middle of the heart points, and it is the avoider. It is the adapter. It is not feeling shame and sadness. It's not connected to that. Just like 9 didn't feel anger, 3 doesn't feel shame or sadness. And invariably when I teach about 3 or I teach the Enneagram, people will say to me, how can 3 be a heart point? They don't seem to have a whole lot of heart. Well, they do, but they don't have shame and sadness. So let's try to put on a 3. So here's how you put on 3. You know, it's a little like when you sit up straight, but you're not tight in your belly. Your shoulders are back, your chest is puffed out, but there's armor around it. Your chest is puffed out, and it gives you the image of being competent and successful. So they're very competent and successful. And if I pop my chest out and armor myself like that and then tighten myself up a little bit, it's like there's something pinching my shoulder blades together in the back. It draws my jaw down, and it will eventually make my voice a little bit tighter so that it tightens up my vocal cords. And now I have a much more commanding way of speaking. It's not quite as soft anymore. It's a little harsher, a little sterner, and it has a little bit of, what is the quality to that kind of voice that is sharp? Yeah, it has a sharpness to it. That's what it is. And I might present, and my voice would probably be louder and more compelling and, attract more attention, and I would tell you about all my accomplishments. So that you would know that I'm really an important person. There's a box around my heart. And my energy goes up and it goes down, but it is not in here. This is empty. And why should it be? Why shouldn't it be, who needs all that emotional stuff when you want to be successful. You want to stay focused on your career because that's what's important. So you don't want to get messed up with shame and sadness. They're not effective and they're not useful. So you got a sense of 3. The essential nature of 3 is love itself. It's sitting right in the middle of the heart, and it is love itself. So when somebody with this pattern begins to unravel it and work on themselves, they become very loving. And they also do connect with shame and sadness, much to their dismay. A really good friend of mine with this pattern is like, why can't I go back to being an immortal again? Why do I have to be an immortal person? So, and she's delightful. So, that's 3, sitting, so managing shame, sadness, and image. They do the image really well. Okay, so we'll go internal first, and then we'll go external. So internal heart. Internal heart is 4. So if we can see the heart area as one big area in the middle of your body, 4 is the bottom of the heart. 4 is deep. 4 is the depth of the heart. So you want to get into a deep part of yourself. You are deeper, more authentic than anybody else. You're unique and you are deeper. And you only want deep conversations that are meaningful. And there's often a breathiness and an emotional heaviness because you have suffered a lot in your life and you're laughing, but you know, their suffering has been very deeply felt. And there was a lot of suffering. And in childhood, there were tragedies. And somewhere inside you, you actually believe that it's your fault, that you are tragically flawed. And so there's this weight, the weight of deep, sad tragedy is always there. And so there are even times when you're feeling so much joy, and yet your expression is still heavy and sad. And I am exaggerating some of these a little bit, but anyway, the essential nature of 4 is radiance. Now, and I think some of you were laughing, so I think you recognize this type, and you've probably recognized others. One of the things about 4s is that they are very beautiful people. Men and women, they're very attractive and very beautiful. And even when they're in their darkest place, there's a radiance. They can't see it when they're in their dark place, but they're radiant, and we see it. We see like this shiny beauty coming through. Because, if you were to kind of peel away some of the imagey stuff that covers 4s and 2s and 3s, you would find someone that was okay attractive. It's the inner radiance that makes them really beautiful. So that is shining through always. And when they peel away the layers of all that, the identity of being a tragic person, they really radiate brightly. So that's their essential nature. Moving on to 2. I'm a 2. I just met like a room full of 2s in here. I don't know what that is about, but and I'm looking at it, and no, you're not all 2s, but I see some. So I'm a 2, and the 2 is in the upper part of the heart. And you can kind of hear it in my voice. It's up here. It's the upper part of the heart. And so how do you begin to get into that? So you put your attention in the upper part of the heart and begin to feel a little effervescent, bubbly quality up there. It's a little bubbly. It's a little bit, and it's as it bubbles, it wants to smile and giggle and make you smile and giggle and come towards you and help you out. And maybe you need some more tea or some water, and I can give it to you, and I'll be, smiling, and I might even giggle a little as you take my cup, and and I'll notice that, oh, I love your earrings, and I'll just reach out and touch you, and so there's like a warm touching, warm, glowing, smiley quality, and all of that is about, I want you to like me. So 4, in its tragicness, was trying to get loved that way, by the way. And 2 is trying to be loved by being bubbly and light and helping you and bringing you things and moving towards you and complimenting you. So, and they want the image of being really nice people. But it is an image. And when we start doing deeper Enneagram work, we peel away those images. And that can be kind of scary because now you're kind of raw and open. So there, 2, 3, and 4 are all trying to get loved. And so I'm going to go back to 3 because I don't think I did a good enough job of showing you what they're doing. By being really successful and competent, you will value them. They will have value. There is no value. They have no value, they feel. They have no value if they're not successful. So if they can show you how competent and successful they are, you'll value them. So they adapt their image to what you want. That's their adapting quality. Okay, so far?
What is the essential nature of it?
Oh, how did I leave that out? It's compassion. So, when I think about heart energy, if 3 sits right in the middle, and you can tell, that energy is just sitting right there in the middle. When it's love, it's just love. It's kind of matter-of-fact, practical love. The two energy of love is compassion, and when it is in its essential nature, not in its fixated nature, it creates a holding environment where it can hold you or a room of people. So it's holding with compassion. And the 4 is that internal quality, and it radiates. It's like the heart, it's like the sun radiating love. So 1 is internal but then begins to radiate, and the 2 is this holding, so it is still the outer moving energy, moving outward. Good question. So 5, 6, and 7. Intellect points, all managing fear and security. So we have the center point, which is 6, which is adapting. And we have 5 that goes inward, internal. And we have 7 that is external. So we'll start with 6, though. And 6 is, to me, one of the most complicated patterns. It is avoiding and trying to avoid fear, but it scares itself with its intellect. So they're all managing fear and security with their minds. So they all are taking in information about the world with their minds, gathering data, information, gathering it, taking it in, sorting it, understanding it, compiling it, whatever they're doing with it. So 6 is doing that, and 6 desperately doesn't want to be in danger. Security is so important to them. So they don't want anything dangerous to happen to them in their life. So they're going to try to think about every scary thing that could happen and make plans for them. If this happens, if it should go this way, then I'll do that. But if it doesn't go this way and it goes the other way, I'll do the other thing. And if it doesn't go this way, I'll do the other thing. So they're managing fear with thinking and making plans. And then they scare themselves with these thinking about what could be scary and making their plans. And the interesting thing about 6s is that if they're really in a scary situation, like something actually happened, is happening right now, they are the perfect people to be with. They click right into their gut, and they are spontaneous and know exactly what to do and are in perfect control of the situation. When they're scaring themselves, it's all about future. It's something that has not happened, might never happen. But they'll tell you, but it could happen, so that's why it's real. But it is not happening. So they scare themselves by thinking about future. So let's get into the energy of 6. You're in your head. So we started with gut. We were in 8, 9, and 1, and in our gut. We were in our heart. Now you're in your head. The energy is up here. The energy is up here. Up here. So really, in your eyes and the top of your head. All your energy is up here. And you are noticing everything. If you're a 6, you're noticing everything. You're noticing how many people are in the room, where the doors are, where the food is, where the bathrooms are. You're noticing everything, and you don't even have to try. It's just an automatic thing that you notice everything. And your mind is going really, really fast. It's gathering all this data. And and if you're going to try to talk like I'm trying to talk while I'm taking in all this information, I'm going to try to say everything that comes into my mind needs to come out of my mouth. And it makes me talk really fast, and sometimes it makes me stutter or stammer, but I'm going to really talk really fast. Because I'm going to try to say everything that comes into my mind, and I have to stop and start myself. You may notice that somebody with this pattern starts and says something, but then they jump over here and they say a little bit of this, and then they jump back over there and they say a little of that, and then, they're kind of like all over the place. It's just, and there's like a chattering, just, sharing everything that, comes into their mind, like what kind of foods they like over there, and, but, but I'm not really that hungry because I just had dinner before. So, but, and I really love the Enneagram, but I'd like other things too, because, so, and it can be like that. With, when they settle down with some spiritual work, with some self-reflection, it begins to quiet. So there's a running away. There's a running away from here in the chattering of the mind. There's a running away from stillness. Now, the interesting thing is that their essential nature is spaciousness. It's spacious. The mind, the intellect being open and spacious. That's their essential nature. And they're not actually imitating it. They're one of the few patterns that isn't. They're kind of running away from it. Because when things get quiet, it feels scary to them. Needing to know and have all the answers to things is so important to this type. So to let the mind get quiet and stop trying to know and understand and figure it out and make more meaning out of things feels like a scary thing to do. It doesn't feel like the right thing to do, because you need to keep the mind going and active and thinking and wondering and figuring it out, or you won't be safe. You're only going to be safe if you can figure everything out. So to say, quiet it down and go into stillness is like, no, that's dangerous. That's a dangerous way to be. So the way that they adapt, because they don't want anything scary to happen, and so confrontation or misunderstandings could be scary, they will, I mean, they're also adapting by thinking of all the scary things. That is a way of adapting. But in conversation with people, if somebody has a strong view and they don't have that view, they won't share their view. You know, if somebody has a very strong opinion, they're like, oh, yeah, I could see why you think that. You know, and in their mind, they're thinking, I don't think like that at all, but I'm not going to tell them because they're not going to, you know, then it's not like 2, 3, or 4 that the worry of then they won't like me. It's then it won't be safe. It won't be safe if I oppose this person with a strong view. It's all about safety, managing safety and fear. So you got a sense of the energy of 6? Yeah, okay. So now 5 is really very, and I have to also say what makes 6 really complicated is that it has a continuum that runs from phobic to counterphobic, and that makes it very confusing. So, and they're confused anyway, right? So, but you know, on one end they're afraid of everything. Like everything is scary. Oh my God, you know, it's anything could be scary. And on the counterphobic side, nothing is scary. It's like it's an adrenaline rush. You know, let's go skydiving. Let's jump off of cliffs, for goodness sake. You know, it's really just exciting. But it is a continuum. So as you come more towards center, there's things that you might be counterphobic about and things that you might be phobic about. And the balance is when they become more healthy. So now I'll go to 5. 5 is the internal head point. So take all your attention into your mind, draw it to the back of your mind, pull it back, let your focus of your eyes become very narrow. Make your bodies very still, small. Make your body still and small and invisible. And if I were to really let my voice become a 5, it would be very quiet. The only way I would be up here teaching as a 5 is if I was a social 5. And then I might have a bigger voice. But I'm still going to have a narrow focus, and my energy is going to be smaller. Eckhart Tolle is a good example of a social 5, if you know him. So, and he can get up there and he will talk with his eyes closed. 400 people and his eyes are closed and he's talking. And then he may look out, close his eyes. You know, and his energy is small. It's not a big energy. It's, you know, and his voice is softer and smaller. So 5s have a smaller energy. They feel fragile. They feel like they are small, like the universe is big and overwhelming, and they don't really want to participate in it. The 6 is scared and really wants to participate. The 5 does not. The 5 feels like they don't need to, they're unconventional, they don't need to fit in, they don't care if you like them, they don't care. They just want to be safe and live in their own little world, and their own little world is way back here. All the research that they've done and that they've compiled, all the charts that they've created that overlap, concept over concept, layer over layer, understanding the depths of things, with no need to share that at all, unless they're social. Then they do share it. 5s that I've known have written books and don't get them published, don't need anybody to ever read them. The information is for them. the more information they have, the safer they feel in the world. And there is a longing to be the expert in some field, to be the one that knows the most about something. If they're social, they share it. If they're self-preservation, they're the expert and nobody knows. Nobody knows about it. So it's like way back, they're living here. Some of them have create fantasies that are in here. And they live in the fantasy. There are characters in there, different languages that they speak with their characters inside. And they can be sitting in a room with people and be in there and in their own world with their energy very small and be pretty much invisible. You got a sense of the energy of 5? A little bit. So now, the last one, but definitely not the least one. Oh, the essential nature is omniscience. Omniscience. So here's what's interesting too about 5, is that if they were to actually let their mind open and come forward instead of being in the back like that, it would open and be a portal to wisdom itself. And there would be omniscience. Not because they're trying to be omniscient, but because they are the portal for it. Lovely. Yes. So 7. Outward moving head type. So again, your energy is in your head, in your mind, and this is outward moving, and you are excited. You're excited, and your mind has all these ideas of all the possibilities. You're learning about the Enneagram now and all the possibilities that you can use this Enneagram for. It's amazing. How come you're not all like jumping up and down, for God's sake? This is the most exciting thing I've ever come across. And that's how I would be expressing it. If I was a 7, I would be so enthusiastic about it. You know, and your energy is just like coming out the top of your head at everybody. And if you're not, and they want everybody to be excited and laughing and smiling, and you know, it's just the most amazing thing. And it's really important that everybody is doing that, really excited. And some of you are, and that feels so good. So it's this excited, enthusiastic energy. Big. It's big. And there's no limits. They don't want any limits. Feeling trapped and limited is like death to them. It feels awful. And they'll always wiggle out of it. They'll always find a way to free themselves and be able to move on to the next thing so that they can stay in this kind of excited, blissful state. And that is the essential nature, is bliss. It is bliss, but when it's connected to the essential nature, it's a quiet, serene bliss. It's not over the top. That's the imitation of it. That comes from the fixated quality. So, from this energetic description, when I'm teaching the Enneagram, and I have a room full of people, and somebody says, well, you know, I get angry, so I think I'm an 8. I'm like, no. I don't think so. Because what you want to begin to look for is that whatever the pattern is, it's dominant all the time. It's not something you do once in a while. Except for 9, we all get angry. 6 doesn't get so angry either because they're too afraid to. But all types get angry. So if somebody is saying, oh, I must be an 8, I get angry. No, and you know, an 8 is pumped. The muscles are pumped all the time. If somebody says, oh, I'm enthusiastic, I'm probably a 7. Well, no, a 7 has a much bigger energy, much more dynamic than somebody that's just saying, I think I think I have that. So it's dominant. It's the predominant energetic quality that you hold in you. Now, we go back to the Jungian stuff just for a moment, and then we'll take a break. Our type is in shadow. So a lot of the time, let's say you're a 2, 7, or 8 and your energy is moving outward, you don't even know it's moving outward. You probably need somebody that knows you to say, yeah, I think your energy does move towards people. Sometimes it's even a little intrusive and in people's face. No, me? Nah, that can't be. So, or like your energy is moving inward. You might not know your energy is moving inward. So, finding your type is like uncovering the shadow. Very much like that. And I really suggest that the tests don't work, that it would be doing your own self-exploration, finding a teacher that will help you find what the type is, and not someone that's going to just look at and listen to what you do, because behaviors don't do it either. So I guess we're going to do questions after the break. So we'll take a break and then we'll do questions.